Hi everybody, welcome to the last unit for the year, moving on, moving out. In this unit we're going to look at moving out of home, your responsibilities, the intricacies of renting and the importance of living within your means. This is video 1 for Learning Goal 1. Students will be able to complete basic forms related to house rental. In particular, video 1 just focuses on defining the basic rental language. So we're going to look at the key terms that we need to understand before we move on and look at some of the finer details of what you do when you rent a place. So you're here on task 1, key vocabulary. You're watching the video now. As you watch, we're going to go through key terms, and you can pause and record the definition in the table here. You can record the definitions in your own words if you want to. You don't need to do them word for word. So let's jump over and get started. So the key terms that we're going to look at are rent, bonds, lease, tenant, landlord and share housing. I'm sure that you're fairly familiar with all of these terms, so we'll just look at them in a little bit more detail where we need to. The first term is an easy one, quite simply rent. Rent is a tenant's regular payment to a landlord for the use of property or land. So go ahead and pause the video now and record the definition for rent in this box here. The second term is bond. A bond is a deposit paid to your new landlord. It is usually the equivalent of 4 weeks' rent. Your bond acts as a form of security for your landlord, so if you damage the property or owe rent when you move out, your landlord may be able to keep some of the money. So pause and record this definition. The next term is lease. A lease is a contractually binding agreement between a landlord or property owner and a tenant. The lessee or tenant agrees to pay the lessor or landlord for use of a property for an amount of time agreed upon in the lease terms. Pause and write down the definition. Okay, giving you a break from writing for a minute, here's a fun fact. For flats and units in the Clontarf area, the average or median rental price for a 1-bedroom home was $195. For a 2-bedroom flat or unit in Clontarf, $260, or for a 3-bedroom, $450. And this is from April till June this year. We can see by the number of bonds that have been lodged that 2-bedroom flats and units are the most popular by quite a lot, followed by 1-bedrooms and then 3-bedrooms. Okay, moving on with the next term. A tenant. A tenant is a person who occupies land or property rented from a landlord. So going back to your table, you can pause and record. A landlord or lessor is the owner of a house, apartment, land or real estate which is rented or leased to an individual or business. Pause now. The last term is share housing. Share housing involves splitting rent and household expenses with other tenants. You and your flatmates will decide how to pay for bills, share the cost of rent and utilities. Utilities are things like electricity, water, internet and so on. Share responsibility for household chores, withdraw from the rental lease when someone moves out, and pay a shared cost for food as a group or shop individually. So stop now and record this definition. Okay, another fun fact for you. There's something called a tenancy database, and that has a list of all the people who've had problems with their tenancies. That might include not paying rent or damaging the property. So you do need to be careful when you're renting that you keep a clean record. You can do that by making sure that you pay your rent on time and that you keep the property in good condition. Okay, so that's the end of your definitions. Task 2 asks you to make a flow chart of the process you go through when you're renting. Okay, so you can use the box here to make a flow chart. Let's have a look at what happens when you rent. So the first thing that you do is look for ads. So you can find ads in lots of places. You can find them on the internet on sites like realestate.com.au, Domain, Facebook groups or Facebook pages. If you're studying at a uni or a TAFE, they will often have flyers around the place. So there are lots of places that you can look for ads for places to rent. If you find something that you're interested in, you can contact the agent and arrange a time to inspect the property. You need to think about whether the property really suits you. Is it in a location that's convenient to you? Is it close to your support network, your friends, your family? Does the house fit all of your belongings? Does it allow for pets if you have pets? So make sure that you think really, really carefully about how suitable the property is for you before you move on to the next step, which is obtaining an application form. You take that away and fill it out, and you make sure that you get all of the documentation that you need. So that might be pay slips, photocopies of your ID, and then return your application to the agent. They usually take around about 48 hours to process your application and let you know whether or not you've been successful. If you have, you then get another set of paperwork. The first thing is called a general tenancy agreement. We'll look at that in more detail in the next video, but that's basically where you sign your lease. Then you complete a bond lodgement. That's where you pay your bond and register it with an authority so that the landlord can't run away with your money's protected. After you've moved in, you complete an entry condition report. Again, we'll have a look at that in the next video. Okay, so what you need to do is make a flowchart. So these are just a couple of ideas of what a flowchart is, just to remind you. So it's not looking at the content of these, this isn't relevant to real estate, but just the idea that you record a step, an arrow, okay, then move on to the next step. So you're recording a flowchart in this box here of what you do when you rent. And you're going to use these steps here. So to clarify, you need to put these steps into a flowchart in this box here. So pause now and complete your flowchart. Okay, so in this video, just to revise, we've looked at the basic terminology that we need to understand when we're renting. The next video will look at the forms that we fill out when we're renting.